Children's Liturgy of the Word lesson for the week. I'm so glad that you joined us. We are in the 25th Sunday of Ordinary Time. So we are all dressed in green still, and we are ready to learn all about Jesus. I hope that you guys were able to come to our Children's Liturgy of the Word in person last week, and we still have it going on this week, and we're going to have it going on the rest of the year as well. So remember, 9 o'clock Mass and 10:30 Mass, we're going to be meeting during church. When somebody goes up front, we'll take you back after the opening prayer into the chapel, and we'll bring you back to Mom and Dad and Grandma and Grandpa right before our Eucharistic liturgy starts. So today, we are going to learn an important thing for you boys and girls. Moms and dads love peace and quiet. If you remember that one thing, you will be the best child ever. You will be the favorite child, trust me. You can ask any mom and dad. Everyone loves peace and quiet. Now I'm going to tell you a story from a man named Aesop. He tells a story about two friends that were mice. There was a country mouse and there was a city mouse, and they loved to visit each other. And one day the city mouse came to the country, and he was visiting his friend in his tiny little cottage. He was poor, and all he could offer his city mouse to eat were pork and beans and a roll. And he just had a small little camper in the middle of the woods. Now the city mouse said, "That meal was very filling. Thank you for that. But I really do miss the meals that my servant puts together, and I miss being in my great big house. Next week, you come and visit me in the city, and we'll have a meal at my house." So the next week, the country mouse goes to visit the city mouse. He did have a beautiful home with a great big table, and it was filled with steak and potatoes and so many desserts. Well, as the two friends sat down at the table to eat, the country mouse heard all sorts of noises. He heard barking and howling in the next room, and the country mouse asked, "What in the world is that?" Well, the city mouse said, "Oh, goodness, those are my dogs. You really must meet them." He opened the door, and the dogs came running in, barking and howling. The country mouse jumped up, and he ran out of the house screaming, "I'm going home. It's better to eat pork and beans and peace and quiet than steak and cake and fear and commotion." What did you guys think? Would you have done the same thing as the country mouse did? How do you feel when you see or when you hear noisy fighting or arguing? Does that make you feel at peace? Well, our gospel today will show us that what Jesus thinks of us whenever we get into noisy fighting or noisy arguing. So let's read and see what he has to say this week. The Lord be with you and with your spirit. This is a reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus and his disciples went to his home in Capernaum. After they were inside the house, Jesus asked them, "What were you arguing about along the way?" They had been arguing about which one of them was the greatest. And so they didn't answer. They didn't tell Jesus what they were arguing about. After Jesus sat down and told the 12 disciples to gather around him, he said, "If you want a place of honor, you must become a slave and serve others." Then Jesus had a child stand near him. He put his arm around that child and he said, "When you welcome even a child because of me, you welcome me. And when you welcome me, you welcome the one who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. All right, now did you hear the disciples arguing in today's Gospel? Even they argued like children sometimes, and sometimes kids argue about silly things, just like the disciples. Some things that are silly to argue about could be, "My dog's better than your dog," or "My dad is stronger than your dad," or "My team is better than your team," or "My grades are better than your grades." But you know what? Jesus doesn't care about how talented, how big, how smart, or how important anyone is. Jesus cares about how helpful and how obedient people are. He says that the greatest people of all are slaves because they serve and they help others like him. Jesus also says that the greatest of people are quiet and obedient. That means that they listen to their parents like a child that was standing before his disciples as that example. Jesus was embarrassed by the fighting that he saw his disciples doing. So we want to remember that all this time, he was teaching them to be peacemakers, and they couldn't even help keep the peace with each other. So at home today, or in your school this week, or your neighborhood one this evening, be that peacemaker. Help the people around you by serving them like slaves. Obey your parents like the obedient and humble child that Jesus used as that example. And if you do those two things, you will be following two of God's commandments. So love each other, love God, and be kind and keep the peace. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.